A ballerina's perspective, from performing with New York City Ballet and Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater to publishing poetry books and mentoring kids and teens. Join us in a weekly discussion with experts to gain mental health clarity and achieve growth and moral consciousness. Give our show a 5 stars, comment, share, and come along for the ride.
Welcome to the Growth, Grace, and Gratitude podcast. Today we will be talking a little bit about the process and journey of grief, rest, recovery, and the personal growth that comes with that. With our special guest, Matus, married 14 years, father, traveled to many countries, lived in Sydney, Australia for 5 years, struggling as a trader, learned hypnotherapy, which changed his life and allowed him to become a six-figure crypto trader, coached traders and high achievers using hypnosis and techniques working with the subconscious mind. Currently focuses on helping people to heal after a loss, heal grief, trauma, and release stuck emotions, to find peace and hope and embrace new beginnings.
Unlock your best life with Soul App. Book a holistic wellness experience with a trained guide and start changing your life today with compassion practices, inner healing, food and diet, and so much more. Tap into a healthier and happier life with the #1 purposeful living app in the US, the Soul App. Link in the description of the podcast.
Wow, what a beautiful bio. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm so excited to speak with you and your work.
Thanks a lot, Ari. I'm very happy to be here.
That's such a beautiful kind of like journey. And it's very interesting when it does come to the process of grief. And I feel like, I don't know if there's a lot of research on this, but I do think men and women might actually process it a little bit differently. Like in my experience, having friends who go through this, some men actually choose to stay silent, and maybe because they haven't been given tools to kind of process these heavy, deep emotions. And a lot of women like to speak because they've kind of been societally programmed to kind of like speak and express their emotions, or maybe they would like comfort eat, overly emotionally eat. Have you seen any kind of like differences between like men or women?
Very much so, and I'm not really sure if it's men and women, even though that might be the case. What I observed over the 7 years that I've been working with people overcoming grief is that there is a difference between emotional and non-emotional beings. And I don't know how much you or your listeners know about human design, but human design is this marvelous tool that can show you whether you are generally emotional being or whether you are generally not really that much emotional. It's about 50-50. And so what happens is that if you are emotional being, meaning that your emotions are kind of constantly running, then it takes multiple attempts to overcome grief and to let it go.
Sanger Daniel's online seminar promoting a positive message of self-healing with bioenergy work together with live seminars and remote coaching. Use code BIO20 for a 20% discount for our audience. Link in the description of the podcast.
And even then, it can still come. Whereas for non-emotional beings, it's usually just one-off. And once you take appropriate steps, you can literally transform grief into much more positive mental states, such as gratitude, quite fast. And so the differences are definitely there, though, again, coming back to it, once you learn the appropriate mental steps to take, it's all about two options. Either you are non-emotional and you can just apply it once and be done with it, if we can say it that way, or you are emotional being, and then if it comes again, you know the mental steps to take, and so you kind of practice it when it comes again. And so there are a couple of more attempts, but again, you come to the more beneficial and empowering mental states afterwards.
Wow, that's
I hope that makes sense.
Yes, totally. And when people do kind of go through those cycles, does the emotional value seem to like dissipate over time? Does it take a very long time? Like, what do you think is a normal kind of process for grieving? Is that like Obviously, it depends on the situation.
ClickFunnels easily build any type of online business and sales funnel in record time, no matter what your product, service, or niche, without any tech design or experience whatsoever. Try the ClickFunnels 14-day free trial, link in the description of the podcast.
And
Right.
what would you say is like an ideal time to grieve? And is there a time when somebody maybe needs like additional therapy or additional healing practices if it seems like they're not processing emotions? Because I know it's so difficult to actually process them. I had a guest, Britt Frank, and she is a neuropsychotherapist, and she wrote a book called The Science of Stuck. So it's just so interesting how,
Right.
as humans, we kind of don't like to deal with emotions, and it's so like heavy, and that process of getting unstuck, it's so kind of like tricky.
Podpitch is the first and only software that finds, writes, and sends pitches to podcast hosts from your actual email address. Podpitch will make sure you get podcast bookings, guaranteed. Link in the description of the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can tell you one thing, and that is, I realized that not all people go through all difficult experiences, right? Let's say not everyone is abused, or not everyone goes through
Oh,
let's say difficult experience like accident or something. But every single one of us goes through loss, experiences loss, and it's all about how we frame the loss, how we internally represent the loss that makes it bearable or unbearable. And so yes, there are definitely points where more approaches is needed. Let's say if somebody loses a partner, parent, or a child in a like sudden way, then definitely there are some extra processes. But all in all, to be able to process loss effectively, it's all about taking mental steps. So here is something that what I believe, which is contrary to the common belief, and that is that healing grief or grieving in itself takes time. I don't believe that's the case. I believe that grieving takes appropriate mental steps, and either you take them and then you can heal the grief, or transform the grief into something more beneficial, or you don't, and then by the it's almost like a random chance that it takes time until you randomly stumble upon a step, and then you suddenly can transform it. But I'm pretty sure that not I speak to many people who experience something traumatic, and even as they talk about it today, it is still part of them, not a part of their history, right? And so they still feel it as if it is still present, even though it happened 10, 15, 20 years ago, right? And so it is all about mental steps. And once you know these mental steps, you can move forward, right? And you can move on from these stuck states that you described.
yes, that's so true. I know a lot of older people, grandparents who went through horrific times in their lives, and it seems that when they get together with family, it seems that that's kind of the main focal point of discussion. In a way, like, yeah, it's so sad because they haven't been given those tools, like you mentioned. Like, we'll get into those mental steps, because if they would be given those steps, they might have something else to talk about. That might be, something,
Right.
the like lower list of emotional processes, because it was part of their life. But it's so true that people, because they don't have those steps that you need to take, it's like that's their entire focal point of conversation. And it does kind of lead to toxic narratives, a victim mindset, victim perspective, and it's hard
Right.
to kind of like find pure joy, because there's always going to be something kind of hanging, holding them down. So when it does come to like victimhood, how can people get themselves to kind of deal with the victim and also try to get out of it in a healthy way? Maybe like through those mental steps that we began on.
Right. That's a good question. So I feel obviously there are more steps or more ways to get there, but I feel that there are two main ones that you can decide for yourself to take. One is to really consider and really have a this eagle eye perspective on, okay, if I remain victim, I'm actually giving responsibility for my life to somebody else or something else. And how does that serve me? How can I go forward? How can I get unstuck? How can I get healed if it's not in my control? right? So it's like this flip switch in your brain that goes, it's like, oh shoot, I guess I need to change it. So that's one way, which is I feel much smoother than the other. The second that many people take is intense suffering. And it's not something that I recommend, but it's unfortunately it happens. They get so intertwined in that victim mentality, kind of being so proud by wearing the label of a victim, that it usually takes intense suffering where they have this awakening, and it is the same thing. They arrive at the same step. It just takes different time and maybe different emotional states to get there, right?
Yeah. That's
So I
very
recommend the first one, right? I recommend the first one to really look at, okay, if I remain in this state, if I remain in this frame, and if I'm giving my responsibility for my life or for this part of my life to somebody else, to something else, somebody who is not even maybe alive anymore, how does that serve me? I hope
wow.
this makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. That is a really great point. And I think when we do kind of go into that journey of accountability and bringing accountability back to ourselves in a way, and that's, I think, a very good step when we're able to do that, because a lot of people are empaths, and empaths kind of like to soak up energy of others, and they take on too much, maybe emotional trauma even from others. So it's like when you are an empath and when you're even hearing stories from people, you have to kind of like put your boundaries, put your energetic, emotional boundaries, and sometimes not tune in, because I think society also kind of tries to play on the emotions and tries to have conversations based on trauma. And that's also not always productive, because if there's no solution based conversation, I feel like it can't go anywhere, it can't expand anywhere. And a lot of our listeners are on this journey of spiritual expansion. They want to learn about healing. They want to learn how to master their emotions, do their traumas, recovery. It's a whole thing. And I think how interesting it is actually today is National Forgiveness and Happiness Day, which
Wow.
really, yeah, that's really powerful when it comes to healing, and especially when it's like the journey of forgiveness. It's a huge journey, and I think a lot of spiritual mentors started to integrate this aspect into their lives. And when we start talking about forgiveness, I think that's really great place to help with that unstuck space, because it's like when we forgive ourselves, we have to kind of subconsciously forgive others by, destroying parts of ourselves, blocking us, whatever we feel as a victim. Perhaps it was true, we were a victim in some ways. And when we're able to forgive, I feel like that's a very long process also, forgiveness. We're able to kind of like integrate that. It's a very spiritual process, because we energetically release that hold. Like you mentioned, when you can't control something, you have to release it. And I feel like through forgiveness, that's the greatest way to release it, because you neutralize this energy, you
Hmm.
neutralize the emotion, and you release it back into the universe, and you kind of free yourself, hopefully getting more unstuck.
Right. And I think what is really important to understand with regards to being entangled with others in relationships, and whether it's a a child and parent or romantic relationship, is that if you want to really be free of the influence of that relationship, I'm not saying breaking up the relationship, I'm saying free of the influence, you cannot let go of the relationship by anything else but love. And it sucks. I'm sorry to say that, but it sucks because they hurt me. They did all these things,
Hey,
and I feel anger, and I feel hate, and I feel like I feel disappointment, and I feel all these things. And now you tell me that it needs to be love. There is no other way. There is no other way, because all these other emotions you just holding so strong, and you can't let go of a person, of an influence of anything, without being able to forgive yourself, forgive them, and to be able to love them, to be releasing them into their life. And so it is again steps to take, and they require courage, and they require for you to be brave, and they require to be able to step into the unknown. But when I talk to my clients, I always describe it quite simply, and that is, you can keep doing what you have been doing for years or decades and suffer, or you can close your eyes and you can suffer, let's call it suffering, for the next 5 to 10 minutes. But it will shift everything. And so you choose, right? You can assume what they usually choose, but it's obviously up to each of us to make the decision.
Wow, that's so true. Exactly. That power of choice, coming back to your accountability, is so true. And when we mentioned like stepping into the unknown, that is true, and it is scary. So how you mentioned it does take courage and bravery. It is so true, because it's like once you step into the unknown, you kind of have to be alone for a temporary, because you're shifting your reality away from, being trapped or feeling trapped or dealing with continuous repetitive loop cycles that don't resonate anymore and don't benefit you
Right.
anymore. And it's like a lot of people learn the value of disengagement as the first step. And that's so hard, because when we are emotionally attached to something, to a person, a timeline, a memory, a frequency, we're so attached and entangled, like you mentioned, and it's so hard to disengage. And I feel like the first step of learning boundaries for your new self is kind of like to disengage. And that means stopping yourself from repeating those storylines and those victim narratives, which is so hard, because I actually also had to do that. When, we go through betrayal and all these things, you want to keep talking about it because it feeds something, like it feeds a part of your wound, a part of your ego, and you feel like you're empowered, like you're a victim, and you want the whole world to kind of be like, oh, pity, poor you. But it's like, once you stop telling yourself that story, like I had to stop. Literally, I just like stopped talking about it, and then I also stopped having the same friendships for a while. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I almost feel like depressed. It's like a new level or layer of depression. So I feel like nobody talks about this, but people do actually, about like levels of grief. Of course, there's deeper depression, but like the underlying emotion, you would have to kind of figure out, why are you speaking about this narrative? Like, what is it doing to you? What is it doing for you? What is it bringing you? And if it's not peace, joy, levity, happiness, you have to kind of like reassess, right? Like, what's the purpose of that?
I love that. I love that. You see, when I work with people on grief, usually grief is something that is clouding the other emotions, the other underlying emotions. And once you, because I mean, here is the thing. Let's consider your parent dies, but you didn't have the best relationship. So you feel grief for them dying. You feel the grief for them not being here to be able to as you consider yourself to be victim, to be able to release you of this victimhood, or to apologize for something that they were not even aware that they did. And so there is like this double layer of grief where there is something unprocessed, and at the same time there is like this place of inside that is unfilled. But once the grief goes away, there comes those other emotions, just like you mentioned: betrayal, anger, hurt, fear. And all these emotions usually are stuck in people. And this might be, again, against common knowledge or common belief. I believe, at least my experience with clients over the last seven years showed me that emotions are usually stuck in you because you did not feel them enough. So, in other words, people come to me and they say, "Oh, I feel this betrayal," and I say, "Okay, how long has it been with you?" And they say, "I don't know, 10 years." And I'm like, "Okay, you haven't been feeling it enough." And they say, "What do you mean?" It's like, because people usually imagine there is a scale between 0 and 10, and 10 is the most that you can feel the betrayal, and they usually are at 6. or 7, and sometimes it goes to 8, and they're like, no, 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 and no, 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 and they keep it on this mid level for years, where actually the solution is to go to 10 out of 10. And I give this example and metaphor that I wanna give to your listeners as well, and it's your subconscious mind, your inner child is still with you. It's still within you. It is no more than maybe 6 years old. And it is very, very, very curious being. It is very curious in all the things that are out there. And if you give them betrayal, it is very interesting for them. And but here is the question: what does a small child that is very interested in something is like, hey, mommy, what is over there? Let's go there. And you say, no, 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 no. Let's not look there. Let's no. What do they do? Do they stop perceiving it? Do they stop being curious? No.
They go even
They're
more.
always they want more. So what I do with my clients, and what I recommend to everybody out there listening to this to do for themselves, even though it's scary, to take that small inner child by hand, to take them to that betrayal and tell them, here it is. Look at it from very close, explore it, check it out from all the different angles. There you go. This process takes literally a couple of minutes. But once it's done, you can turn to the child and be like, okay, satisfied? And usually the child says, yes, okay, I'm gonna explore something else now, right? Regardless that they were interested in that betrayal for years. Regardless of that, it just happens. It's like a flip switch. You are satisfied and you can move on, because that's the moving on, right? Moving on is once you are satisfied with exploring this one concept. And it works with betrayal, it works with anger, it works with any emotion that you are holding on to. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, that makes so much sense. I love that. It's so true. It's that process of like, so when I said disengage, I guess first you do have to engage the inner child version of yourself, because I think actually people are so quick to detach before dealing with those emotions. It's so true. So depending on where you are in your healing journey, the inner child, go to that first. It totally makes sense, because we go to that inner child. I mean, we're afraid to go to the inner child because we do have those
Yes.
emotions, like you mentioned, like even guilt and shame. I think those are
Shame, yes.
those
Shame.
huge
Oh,
emotions,
yeah.
and I guess they're somehow developed during adolescence or during some age where there is kind of trauma and there's unknown tools how to deal with it. So then they just hold it in, and the case.
I'm very happy. I'm very happy. I would like to say something here, because I mean, this is I really love how this is going, because we didn't plan on talking about this one, but this is so important. So shame is one of the worst emotions that you can be carrying, and shame is not your emotion. Whoever is out there listening to this and they are ashamed of something, there are a couple of things that I want to say about shame, but I know for the lack of time, I'm just going to be very, very short. Number one, shame, and you carry shame because you have learned it. So you have been a good learner, and you've been raised in an environment that was teaching you shame, and so you were like, okay, this is what we are doing. Okay, so now I'm going to be a shameful person, right? Number two, shame is something that is creating reverse causality. And what happens is that many people believe that they do a lot of behaviors out there, and because they do those behaviors, they should be ashamed of themselves. But in reality, it's quite the opposite. It's because you have learned to be a shameful person, you are going out there to confirm yourself that you are still a shameful person. And so that's why you do these behaviors. And so coming back to it, there is a step-by-step process. Again, it's a mental process that you take. And once you take these steps, you will release the shame from your life forever. Why am I saying that? Because I was carrying shame for 36 years of my life, and I did the process, and I woke up the next day as a different person. I dropped a lot of addictions immediately. I dropped a lot of obsessive thoughts that I used to have for years immediately. I dropped all the feelings or thoughts that I used to have about myself immediately. Ever since I've been doing it for with couple of clients, the result was always the same. You take the steps, you release the shame, you stop doing those shameful behaviors. It's not the guilt. Guilt is very beneficial. Guilt is something that is telling you, oh, I crossed my boundaries. But shame is actually telling you, I crossed the boundary, but I really don't know what it is. Somebody told me I should be ashamed. I don't know why. So I just feel this, right? It's again, it's not stuck in you. You have not been born as a shameful person. You have learned it, and just as you learned it, you can unlearn it. And that's really important to know.
That's such a beautiful soul reminder. It's like a spiritual perspective because it's so true that this whole you explained it beautifully. Yes, I love that. And when it
Thank
comes
you.
to rest, now we can shift a little bit to like rest because trauma recovery, that's such a like a deep, intense, heavy process. Why do you think rest is so important, and what should rest look like and feel like?
That's an excellent question. I feel that the rest is our natural state. Right? It's not something that you deserve after you have worked hard or after you did whatever, you ticked the boxes today, so now you deserve a rest. Rest is something out of which everything comes. Rest of the mind, rest of the body, the intuition, the creativity cannot flow when you try to push it. It can only flow when you allow the space for it. And so I feel it's very important for people to be able to allow themselves to rest. It's important to understand or flip the belief that healing is never ending story. It's a never ending journey. If you break a leg, it will take specific amount of time and it is healed. If you take proper steps, it is healed. And you will never ever need to worry about it again. It is the same for anything that happened to you, but you need to allow yourself rest. And once you flip the switch, what actually happens is that you take rest as a natural state. Ease, being at ease, is a natural state. So it's not something that you need to consciously think of. You do it, and then out of that state, you are like, I feel like doing something, and then you come back and rest. So for me, it's quite the opposite. I'm more about not focusing on the rest because the rest is just so natural that I'm just enjoying the rest, and out of that comes activity, if that makes sense.
100%. It's kind of like meditation in action. We like to kind of like be purposeful with that like process of
Meditation.
healing and integrating and living. And when we go back into the real world after we did process, or some people have to maybe go through recovery in kind of isolated space, we see that when we come back out into the world, we most function best when we are in that meditative space on a daily basis. We don't have to like go up into the mountain and like feel zen and that's it. We have to continue to process our daily lives and try to like master ourselves during the journey. That's the challenge. That's the art. And yes, it's so true. Like being in a state
Right.
of rest, it should be incorporated into your lives. And if people are always like chasing for the weekend and chasing to try to find rest during vacation time, that's also kind of like going to put so much stress on the body. And I feel like then that creates a whole other area of problems. So yeah, it is true that rest is important to know how to kind of like reprogram your body to be in rest on a daily basis as
To
part
be
of
in
the
rest. Exactly.
and when it
Yes,
comes to
yes,
your
yes,
inner
yes, exactly.
child, what is your favorite way to soothe your inner child during challenging times?
Wow, that's an excellent question. So there are multiple ways that I use, but the most effective lately that I've been working on, and I recommend to all my clients, is to prepare for challenging times ahead of time. And so what I started doing for myself a couple of years back, actually, and now I practice it almost daily, is I would record myself meditations or pep talk or positive affirmations with my voice, recording when I am feeling particularly well. And so when the challenging time comes, I have a whole list
Oh,
of
wow.
recordings that I plug myself, and it's like, you can do it. I believe in you. And it's my own voice saying these things. And it just, obviously, I mean, hear me out. If you are somewhere down, maybe you don't believe people saying that everything will be okay. Maybe you don't even believe yourself, right? It's like, okay, I heard this, but look at how I feel. But but it is a great reminder that there was once a time that you felt okay. And if you have more recordings, you can see, oh, there were many times that I felt okay, and many times that I listened to it. And so you know, wherever you are and however deep you are, however low you are, you know that they will be up again. And so it's just that reminder, not only the content of those words, but just the act of it, that you thought of yourself, that you are supporting yourself, and then you remember that when that happened, when you were recording it, you were good. And so you know that it will happen again.
That is so beautiful. That is such a beautiful gift to give to the inner child because, I mean, it's so true. We have our high days, we have our low days. Sometimes we feel like we're on top of the world, and sometimes our shadow is kind of taking over and we're so lost. And I love how you mentioned to record yourself and like with positive affirmations when you are at that height, because then when you do go low, as we are, we're waves. Our emotions are waves. We process
Of
things as
course.
waves. It's like that. Here's your reminder, and it's such a beautiful way to remind yourself to kind of have the faith and to have that grace for yourself as you're processing and healing.
Yes. And what I tell to all my clients is quite simple, and that is, I cannot heal you. Nobody can. The only person that can heal you is you. You know, and all those challenging times that happened in the past, there is just one person that can change these things. Because many people say, oh, you can't change the past. Of course you can. Of course you can change the past. You obviously can change the past. It is indeed happening every single day with my clients. But it must be you who visits your previous version in those low times, who visits the child that was suffering or was abused, or that adult that didn't know what to do in this challenging situation. It is you who needs to go there and who needs to soothe them and tell them, hey, I'm here now. We survived. Everything is okay. You'll be fine. I know it's hard. I know it's difficult, but it is okay. And so, because I used to do this and I do this daily with my clients, going back, I realized, hey, wait a minute, this can actually work for the future. And so, you can just do it when you are at the top, exactly like you said, Ari. If it takes 2-3 minutes to record yourself feeling really good and then listening to it, it is just so healing, so transformative, as it happens every single time.
Yeah, amazing. And before the podcast, we were talking a little bit about how my podcast is the growth, grace, and gratitude. And you mentioned how you have a program. Would you like to talk a little bit about that?
I'd be happy to. So I really love the growth, grace, and gratitude. All G. And so now I actually am putting together a process, and it is a 7-day process that is called Grief into Gratitude, which is a process that I've been testing and changing and shifting in the last couple of years into really fast track process where anyone who is grieving a loss, regardless of if it's a loss of a person, a loss of a relationship, loss of a pet, a loss of ability, I lost an ability to do something, or loss of a dream. I can't have children because I always wanted to have children, but I can't. Right? Just an example. There is a step-by-step process that you can take, and you can transform this loss into more positive feeling. And many people feel almost like a void inside them after they lose something. It's almost like this thing or this person was a part of me, and now they are missing. And there is one thing I want to say about grief. Many people say grief is unexpressed love, and for me, this frame is just, it doesn't work. It doesn't work, because if the person disappeared from your life and you believe grief is unexpressed love, then you are stuck with the grief forever. You can't express it going forward. And so this process is changing the grief that you are holding into gratitude immediately as you go through the step-by-step process. And I have quite a high success with this process personally and with my clients. So that's why I'm now going forward, and I'm going to be focusing now, because as a person I can be helping people with many things, but I want to really focus on grief, because loss is something that we all experience. And let me just say one more thing. I really believe that grieving effectively should be taught at school, just like, let's say, raising children should be taught at school, but it is not. And so I'm here trying to bring it to as many people as I can through my digital products, through my one-on-one, through whatever, so that people can learn how to grieve effectively, because the loss will come. And my slogan going forward will be, or my motto is quite simple: grief is, or loss is inevitable, but grief is a choice. And so if you know the right steps, you don't have to grieve, and you can live in gratitude, just like Ari is doing on her podcast.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Yeah, I love that. I love that closing. And it's so beautiful because when also we have like a series on a podcast, the Divine Masculine. So when we have men come on and share their journeys and their stories and what they're offering to the world, I feel like it's such a beautiful way to kind of incorporate overall healing because, like you mentioned, it wasn't taught in schools, this kind of process of deep healing. And when a man is able to, like yourself, to express in such a beautiful and profound way, it gives the society so much healing and love back because we do need strong and empowered men to stand up for this kind of healing and to share and express. I think it's such a beautiful gift. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Wow.
I'm sure our
Thank you.
listeners are going to have such a great way to learn more about how to process grief and how to learn more about it so that they're not going to be stuck or scared or fearful. They'll be able to try to move along more swimmingly, more smoothly to embrace that and to kind of step into hopefully a new timeline so they can be their happiest, best selves.
Exactly correct. And I'm really thankful that you invited me, and I'll be happy to be back if there is a space for it. But
Of course, would love to have you back on. Where can people connect with you and see your content?
that's a good question. So my name, as Ari mentioned it, my name is Matus Hanidziar. You can find me on X. I'm mostly on X. I'm also on Instagram. I have my own website. I'll be happy to connect with anyone who is struggling out there. Thank you very much.